I issued directives to the security forces. One directive, I will put these directives in a booklet, which I will make available to the public. There is this letter I wrote on the 15th of May, 2017, to the Chief of Defense Forces and the Inspector General of Police and Director General Intelligence Services. I can read it for you here. Concerning torture, this is in order to enlighten you about the use of torture on suspected criminals, okutatsya. This is what they call it in Nyankore, okutatsya, to beat in order to make somebody talk in the fight against crime. In our traditional societies, torture was commonly used, and it was not only accepted, but actually encouraged. Hence the proverbs like akabwa kaiba kaihura mugongo gwako in Runyankore and akabwa kabi kagumya mugongo in Uganda. The dog that steals pays with its back. In both dialects, it means that a stealing dog pays with its back, i.e., by being struck with sticks and koni emigo on the back. Traditional ideas, however, had their own mistakes in many instances. That is why those ideas that are not consonant with logic should be abandoned. To take one example, in many of the African societies, marriages were arranged by parents for the young couples. The couples had no say in the matter. This was because in the no-nonsense traditional society, marriage was a strictly scientific matter designed to produce offsprings that had no emize, no hereditary defects, physiologically and behavior-wise. These would be defects like asthma, epilepsy, and behavioral weaknesses like cowardice, greed, spendthrifts, ababaji, etc. The idea of love among the intended couples never entered the equation. There was okurigira, to appreciate the beauty of, or oksima, to appreciate the qualities of somebody. This was, however, by the parents or persons deployed by them. Today, however, all enlightened people know that the traditional concerns notwithstanding, love among the couples is paramount. It is therefore clear that torture, in order to extract confessions, okutatsya, has three possible mistakes that may even torture, the three possible mistakes that may include torturing the wrong person, somebody who is totally innocent. This is very unfair. That's number one. Secondly, somebody may admit guilt when he's innocent in order to be spared being tortured. This would make the real criminal escape in order to commit more crimes later. You see, that beating, somebody can say, yes, please don't beat me, I admit, when in fact, he's not the one. But because of fearing beating, he just admits. So what does that mean? it means that the real criminal is not arrested. He's somewhere and he will commit more crimes because you have gone off with the wrong target. Thirdly, confessions by criminals are not necessary. These lazy security people think that the criminal must admit. No, even if he doesn't admit, but you bring the facts, the court will convict him. Even if he doesn't admit, even if he's... So it's not necessary to get admission. Even if the suspects do not admit their guilt, if the investigators do their work well, fingerprints, photographs, DNA tests, eyewitnesses, the use of other scientific methods, the use of dogs, the criminals can get convicted whether they admit or not. Therefore, the use of torture is unnecessary and wrong and must not be used again if it was being used as I see some groups claiming in the media. Of course, the criminals are the most annoying by using the cowardly but shallow methods of the borders, taking advantage of the large number of vehicles and people in order to commit crime and hide. That, however, should not make us panic and go back to the defective traditional methods of octatia. We defeated Lakwena, we defeated Coin, who was being heavily supported by external elements. We defeated the ADF that was again being heavily supported by foreigners. We defeated UP of Teso and disarmed the Karamojong cattle rustlers by removing 40,000 rifles from them. We cannot fail to cope with cowards using borders to kill people who are peacefully sitting in their cars, or are walking along the streets. With a little adjustment, we shall avenge the death of Sheikh Mustafa Bahiga, Prosecutor Kagezi, Haji Daktur Muwaya, Sheikh Jawat Madangu, Sheikh Yusuf Sentamu, Sheikh Yunus Sentuga, Haji Mohammed Sabagara, Tito Okwale, Constable Driver Wambeo Godfrey, Corporal Erao Kenneth, number 1004 SPC Karim Tenywa, number this PC Babale Muzamiro, Award John Stephen, Award Julius, SPC Isiko, Macho Stephen, Okumu Ronald, Sheikh Rashid Wafula, Major Chigundu, and AIGP Kawesi. So these are the people who had been killed by these terrorists, whom I was naming here. And indeed, we have arrested the ones who were arrested in the case of Kawesi, in the case of Katumba. Many of them were involved in the case of Kawesi and in the case of Chugunda at least. I have not checked about Kagezi and others. So therefore, what I said here has been fulfilled. By patiently improving our technology, improving our methods, we have finally got these people. Using our brains, not using beatings. Our annoyance with these criminals should not make us opt for defective shortcuts. These are hardened criminals by default who think that by denying they can kill and escape accountability. However, we shall get them using patient methods of evidence, but not through torture, because evidence through torture is not reliable. That was the letter I wrote in 2017 to, and I gave copies to so many vice presidents and other people. Now, on 15th February, soon after the elections, I met commanders of the Commandos of SFC about the use of force by patriotic fighters. And it reads as follows. The historic line of the NRA for NASA is that we were and still are patriotic fighters. We fight for the 4 principles of our revolution. These are patriotism, loving all Ugandans, because these Ugandans need one another for their prosperity and security. Pan-Africanism, because we realize that even Uganda, later on the individual sectarian groups, is not enough to ensure the prosperity and security of Ugandans as individuals or groups. They need East Africa. Socio-economic transformation that must involve the metamorphosis of society from the pre-capitalist, traditional, non-monetary modes of production, mainly for subsistence, mixed up sometimes with the limited colonial and neo-colonial modes of non-profitable production, such as the growing of tobacco in Western Nile or cotton in other parts of the country, to commercial production in the 4 sectors using Ekibaro. The 4 sectors being commercial agriculture, industry, services, and ICT. And democracy, which means governance by the people through regular elections. Those are the 4 principles of the NRM: patriotism, Pan-Africanism, socio-economic transformation, and democracy. With these principles, the patriotic fighter cannot go wrong. There is no Ugandan aiming at genuine and legitimate interests of an individual or a group that will in the long run not support us. If we stick to our principles, there is nobody who will oppose us indefinitely. Because we are right. What we are saying is right. That's why you find that many people who are in the opposition, eventually they come to our side. In the short run, through lies, obscurantism, and manipulations, some groups or individuals may oppose us. As the Banyankole say, "Ekiteekateekirwe embwa kahonga omu karo." This refers to somebody who threw spitted meat omu karo at a dog. The dog, thinking that the man had thrown a stone at it, initially ran away. However, from a distance, the dog smelled the scent from the meat and realized that what it initially thought was a danger was in fact very delicious food omu karo. It came back and enjoyed the meat. The NRM, Fronasa, the NRA, the UPDF have never thrown stones to any group of Ugandans in search of legitimate interests, either in the past or the present. The only ones that faced our fire were those defending or promoting illegitimate interests. Dictators, denying the people free elections like the President Nup, which is an attempt to resurrect KY or the likes of Amin. Here I'm referring to Nup because they were using intimidation, terrorism. Feudalists and opportunists trying to divide Ugandans along tribal or religious lines, or grabbing the land of the peasants in the form of the colonial Mayo land. Or indisciplined soldiers and other security personnel misusing guns of the state to kill people unjustifiably. These are parasites, and they are the ones that are never happy with us. They are actually the opposition to us ever since 1965. In the last 57 years, we have used both peaceful means and the barrel of the gun to push for the legitimate interests of the people of Uganda and Africa. Peaceful means included the correct diagnosis and prescription that eventually evolved the 4 principles and also the propagation of the ideas thereof to the population, students, peasants, intellectuals. Here we put our analysis peacefully to the public. In spite of the obscurantism and subterfuge of the reactionaries, the population, on account of our patient explanations and our actual practice, in the end, comes to our side. This is what happened at the Chikunyu Conference in 1982, when the bankrupt Kaira was pushing for an army of Baganda, UFM, parallel to the army of the Banyankwere NRA. The Baganda peasants rejected that bankruptcy and sided with the NRA. You have seen recently the voting behavior of West Nile, Acholi, Lango, Teso, and Kasese that had been manipulated in the past by the parasites to be hostile to the NRM on false grounds. In time, with our own right actions for the people discover that what was previously presented as a stone thrown with hostility was actually delicious meat. They abandoned the parasites and came to our side. That's how the LRM grew from a mere student group between 1965 and 1970 to the part of millions by 1994, the time of the CA, Constituent Assembly. The correct ideological and political messages accompanied by correct actions where opportunity for actions exists. That's what changed, transformed us from small to big, from weak to strong. Where it becomes unavoidable to use force, again, the force must be used in a principled way. We never used force indiscriminately. Indiscriminate use of force is terrorism. It is counter-revolutionary. An armed revolutionary, a patriotic fighter, is like a surgeon. A surgeon. A surgeon uses a knife, but in a careful, deliberate, targeted way. He or she goes for the tumor. In aiming at the tumor, he may injure other tissue that we are not sick. That is all right. It is unavoidable damage. Have you heard of collateral damage? If, however, he was to cut anyhow, unnecessarily, he would no longer be a surgeon, but a butcher. Hence, the NRA always observed the following. We never used assassination by either bullets or poisoning. I saved Oito Joke from a planned assassination in Nairo mansions. The High Command stopped a commander that was beginning to poison UPC officials in Kampala. They were calling Tokwenjera, using cyanide. And I saved Peter Otai from poisoning in the UK by alerting some officials from UK that were here in Kampala. 2, we never beat or killed prisoners of war. Good examples were people like Christopher Gala, the police commander whom we captured in Masindi, the RP Masindi, as well as the 4 or so Acholi soldiers and the 2 Tanzanian instructors that we captured at Masindi on the 20th of February, 1984. Instead, we treated them well, stayed with them at Kanyara for weeks, took them to Kaya's farm to see the dead bodies being dumped there by the government, and delivered the Tanzanians to their High Commission in Kampala and dropped Gala at the soldiers on Guru Road. Obote was disappointed that we had not killed Gala and the Acholi soldiers. He indeed imprisoned Gala so that he does not tell his story. Gala was only released by Okero in 1985. He continued as regional police commander until he reached his retirement in November 1998, long after the NRM had come to power. Yet, we killed many enemy soldiers that attacked us or that resisted our attacks. Dozens at Kembogo, Rubona, Nyabishojwa, etc. We killed when it was necessary and unavoidable. Beating captives is wrong. Why? You undermine your case in court when the court discovers that you got information through torture. Secondly, on account of beating, somebody may admit what is not true in which case you assist the criminals by failing to identify the actual criminal. The unidentified criminal will remain at large and commit other crimes. Torture, assassination, etc. are used by lazy people that are not ready to do more work, using gaps in the stories of the criminals if they are telling lies. Even if a criminal or a terrorist does not admit, you can use circumstantial evidence to pin him, telephone calls, witnesses, etc. I therefore direct that the SFC uses two modes of conduct in operations other than war. You are likely to meet two scenarios. One are the urban terrorists, like the ones that were beginning to emerge around Kampala, using guns, knives, or hammers to kill people or intimidate them. Following intelligence, you should move in wearing the uniform of the counterterrorism police. If somebody is challenged to put up his hands and he tries to throw something at you or tries to reach for a gun, you shoot him. If he is aiming at hitting a civilian, you shoot him. If he is trying to set fire to a building or a petrol station, you shoot him. If he is damaging a car or a shop, you first fire in the air. If he ignores and goes on damaging, you close in on him and arrest him. If he tries to attack you, you shoot him. The individual soldiers here should have the initiative. This is if these are urban terrorists who are using guns or other implements. When it comes to crowds, e.g. demonstrations, I do not think that the members of the security forces should act individually. They should always act as a group, following the commands of the group leader, following the anti-riot procedures. This means, therefore, that the group should disperse about 300 meters from the scene of commotion so that they advance information ready to implement orders of the commander as he appreciates the situation. In these ways, you will be lethal, humane, and strategic. It is a strategic mistake to beat prisoners, shoot somebody that has surrendered or has been captured. By doing so, you are galvanizing support for the enemy and making the enemy soldiers more determined to fight. If the enemy soldier is going to be killed or tortured badly, why should he surrender? Why not die fighting? By not killing captives, but instead treating them well, you are actually disintegrating the enemy's forces. The enemy soldier will easily surrender because they know the enemy soldiers will easily surrender because they know that they are safe. Since you are also lethal fighters like you, the Commandos, who were in Somalia on Kilometer 4 and Uruba Hotel, or in the Semrik National Park in 2007, the enemy soldier will fear to resist because they know that they will be killed legitimately if they continue to resist. Nobody therefore should damage our strategy and reputation by killing prisoners or beating them. It is wrong and unnecessary. It is counterproductive and immoral. The people you have captured may be criminals. They will be punished, including being hanged. They will be hanged. The court will hang them. But according to the law, what is the advantage here? The advantage is that even their own mothers will know and most probably support the punishment because they have understood the reasons. As already said, if they are killed resisting arrest, that is also understandable. Killing or beating captives without trial isolates us. Trying captives in courts of law and hanging them isolates the criminals. Even their mothers will either support us or at least understand. Returning punches to somebody punching you is also correct. It is the beating or killing of somebody already in your custody that is a strategic mistake, or shooting somebody that has put up his arms. Lethal, humane, and strategic are the three important words that I, as the leader of the resistance, I give to the Commandos. Thanks. So this is what I gave to the Commandos on the 15th of February. So therefore, these people who are continuing to do what they are doing is not acceptable. It would be eradicated. I want the people of Uganda to know that I will launch a very strong campaign, educational first, like these letters which were mainly educational and explaining the logic, but also we shall use the law to uproot this culture of reactionary behavior in our armed forces.